So last time, I talked for an hour before I started the show. Now, just going to start the show. From the studio, in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary, at the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the Triangle Talk Show. It is episode 77. We're going to stick with doing civics. This is important stuff. You really need to know this. And I know you just tuned out. February 24th, 2020. The last episode was Undecided Voter. Today's episode is Decided Voter. And look there. I voted early. I figured it out. I voted early. I'm Gary Pierce. I am a decided voter, and I voted early. I can hear a cat screaming in the background. You can probably hear it back there. It was not easy. It's never been easy for me to figure out how to vote. And this time I used a couple of resources. I looked at the News and Observer. They had some recommendations, some endorsements. League of Women Voters, vote411.org had information, not recommendations, not endorsements, but information. And then the person that I've got on the phone here, Gailya Paliga, who is the president of the National Organization for Women for North Carolina, decided to send out, there we go, your title, decided to send out an email to a bunch of people, friends and people that she knew. Unfortunately, this year I was on it with her recommendations for a lot of the offices that were on my ballot. And that helped a lot. And so, Gailya, welcome to the Triangle Talk Show. I guess I should say welcome back, because you've been on it before. You may not even know it.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary.
I snuck you in on a little interview that we did back when the legislature was voting on not overriding a bill that Governor Cooper vetoed.
At the legislative building.
Yeah. And so
I remember that.
Yeah, snuck you in on a little interview there. But I'm glad to have you on a solo deal. You're on the phone because I live in a cat house, and you're allergic to cats. I am. So we're doing this on the phone. There are a series of pictures that people who are watching the video are going to see that I stole from your Facebook page. So
okay,
you're hiding on the one I'm looking at right now. You're hiding behind the Now banner. When people see you out there and about in events, activities, protests, that big round Now banner is sort of your constant companion.
Yes.
That's how we can recognize who you are. So on this episode, I want to talk to you about three things. The first is this list of recommendations that you came out with.
Okay. Yeah, I send that to my friends. These are my opinions. This has nothing to do with Now. Now didn't do any endorsements in the primary. NC Now PAC didn't do any endorsements in the primary, and wouldn't do many of these positions. They would just do the statewide ones. Okay, so everybody should understand that the candidate recommendations that you're going to get into in a minute are just your personal recommendations and not endorsements by North Carolina Now. Yes. And then I want to talk about your history of activism, because I've only sort of gotten activist light, I'll call it, in the past couple of years. And then we'll talk a little bit about the ERA, which has made progress recently. So, okay. Voting is hard. Yes. Because it's really hard to find beyond the top couple of lines on the ballot, the president, governor, get down to lieutenant governor even, and who the hell are these people? And how do I make up my mind voting for them? You got some advantages. You got your fingers in all those pies, and you're familiar with all these people, and so you can see what they actually do. Tell me how you make up your mind.
Well, I
have a lot of different ways to make decisions. At one level of voting, NC now has a political action committee. And so for state level offices, like the legislature and judicial offices and lieutenant governor and governor, we have formal interviews that we've been doing, and I've been involved literally for decades. And so we do interviews on issues that are important to women or important to feminist women anyway. And
men who are paying attention.
I'm sorry?
And men who are paying attention.
Right. And we do have members that are men. And so, many people I've interviewed in the past, and so I know how they are on issues. And when there are press conferences and things like that on women's issues, I go when I can and, speak when I can. And so some people I know myself. Some, if I don't know, I know people who are likely to know about the choices. Other people I know because they've gotten active in some other forum, and so I might know them personally. Like Tammy Brunner, who is running for Register of Deeds ages ago, was a Raleigh Now president. And, so I worked with her, and then she went and worked with the Democratic Party and, has a very good reputation there. And she's, I've known her for decades now. And so, there are lots of different ways you can know people and learn about them. I also read about suggestions, and the News and Observer isn't that helpful because they're just like, here's the information. The Independent used to be very helpful because I might not always agree with them, but they were opinionated and they would tell you why.
Yeah.
I am
Independent is now known as Indie Week.
Right. It got bought out like 3 or 4 years ago, and it is less reliable, especially Raleigh's, their endorsements for the Raleigh election last year, I thought were terrible. And actually one of their past, I'm Facebook friends with one of their past writers who had been with them forever, and he was appalled. He was appalled with their recommendations too. They were all off course. That
is distressing to hear because without knowing that was one of my sources last year for figuring out who of all these people I knew nothing about, who to vote for.
Right. And their recommendations were just, I thought they were utterly terrible. And I think, they went ahead and got rid of the CAC meetings, the Citizen Advisory Councils, without input from the public, and also
that's the Raleigh City Council did that.
Right, the Raleigh City Council did that with the mayor, and the Raleigh City Council just had a vote and pulled it without any public input, and also they made this plan keeping out one of the city councilmen who is very active in his community and using the CACs, and you have to wonder if he was targeted, and his use of CACs was targeted because, it was just an appalling move. So
I read about that, and I'll count myself in probably among the vast majority of people. I don't live in Raleigh, but I pay a lot of attention to news from Raleigh, and didn't know what those were. I probably come across an article that referenced them here and there, but no idea.
Yeah,
and I guess one of the complaints about them was that very small number of people actually participated.
So they've been around for like 46 years, and they're all different. All areas of Raleigh have them, and I've been involved with them because the property in back of us was rezoned 3 times, starting when my daughter was a baby, and we'd go to these meetings with them and with the Planning Commission and with the Raleigh City Council eventually, and were very unhappy with that stuff going on with some of that, and with the result of that personally. But also, like, there have been other more successful efforts to fight back zoning up here. I'm in North Raleigh. In fact, that's really how Councilman David Cox got involved in the city council, is with a zoning case that was up by them. And he's made great use of the citizen advisory councils to get input. I mean, I've been to meetings up here with like over 125 people there. So, on a normal day, I mean, they have their meetings and then we have other meetings go on. And so, you've got to pick what you really need to go to. But if you need to go, they're available. And, it was a formal place to have input on growth in Raleigh, changes in Raleigh.
Is that an example of people who get out and participate, and they're going to be a very small minority, having a way outsized voice compared to compared to their numbers? I don't think so. Like, it was kind of the city's choice how much they wanted to take that input anyway. And so it is input, but it wasn't oversized input. Unless they made it out to be oversized input. Like, I know with one of the zoning cases, we missed the CAC meeting, the second CAC meeting that they had on our rezone, because I just missed the email and nobody else noticed it. And then the people in the CAC meeting were like, well, if the neighbors aren't complaining, then I guess it's okay, even though the rezone might have not made a lot of sense. And then the Planning Commission was like, well, nobody complained in the CAC meeting. We're like, yes, but we have 15 people here who are complaining right now. So I don't think it was outsized. I think it was just appealing to, usually you go if there's a rezone or something going on, unless you're invested in the CAC meetings for some other reason. So, and they were saying that, I had read that mostly it was maybe areas where people were more unhappy that had more attendance. Certainly in our case, those big meetings were about rezones or other things that people were unhappy about. Because, anytime you're committing to meetings, it's time and energy taken away from other things you might be doing. So, yeah, and I guess that's item 2 on the list of things I want to talk to you about. So we'll put that on the table for a moment. It's just how to be an activist, how to actually get yourself out there. So let's talk about your list that you sent out to people. I'll go through it fairly quickly. And you went from president all the way down to county board. And most of those will affect everybody in the Triangle area, the audience for this show. A few of them are just going to be Wake County. For president, you said you can figure it out.
Well, and I'm still deciding myself.
Okay. I've decided because I've already voted. Yeah,
right.
I got my I voted sticker here. And I voted for Elizabeth Warren. And it wasn't an easy. I'm not on a bandwagon for Elizabeth Warren. It wasn't an easy decision. but she covered more of the things that I like in a style that I like than anybody else was. I have and I'll be one of those folks that say I will vote blue no matter who.
Right.
That is clear. We have to do that. And one of the candidates that I warm up to the least is the guy that's way in the lead right now.
Right.
And so Bernie Sanders rubs me the wrong way. He is way too Trumpian for my taste. In the populist, angry populist railing against the system. It's just that he rails for things that I favor.
Right.
And so it's easier to take. But I don't see him as the effective leader I'd like to see. But if he's the one, if it goes the way it looks like it's going early on, and he is the winner, he wins the primaries. And as the candidate, I'll vote for him, and I'll vote for him gladly. I won't be holding my nose.
I mean, kind of part of the problem with the first two primaries is they're like almost completely white states, so they're not indicative of a larger population or a diverse population at all. And also, like, caucuses are... I hate caucuses.
They're terrible.
They're terrible. Like, and you have to have like a whole bunch of time free, and you might just be like, okay, whatever, I will vote for whatever so I can get out of here. Not my first choice, not my second choice. I don't even care at this point. I want to go home. Yeah. I'm going to vote for whoever. I mean, it's not indicative of what people necessarily really wanted. So it's a shame that those are our first two primaries, and there is so much at stake with Trump as president right now that, people are paying more attention than they normally would too, I think. So, but the problem is, it's like a lot of more progressive people feel like they need to vote blue no matter what. Or, they need to vote for anybody but Trump no matter what. But, like, unaffiliated voters may be less likely to do that, and someone like Bernie Sanders may be too much for them to take. And so, they may or may not vote for Trump, but they wouldn't vote for him either. And in other states, I don't know, like, the country is so different, rural versus urban, and he would be a hard sell, I think. But also it's just those primaries are just not good indications of what people really want.
Yeah. So when we get through Super Duper Tuesday, that North Carolina is now a participant in, we have a much better idea.
Maybe.
Well,
yeah.
We think we will. You said you were impressed by Mike Bloomberg's excellent ads.
Yes, I appreciate his ads. He did not do well. He did not do well in the debates, but no. I do like his ads, and they're focused where they should be focused.
And that is exactly what bothers me about Michael Bloomberg, is that his ads are so damn good.
Why does that bother you?
Because they all ring to me like these are very carefully chosen talking points, statements to ring our chimes just the way his consultants want them to ring.
Right. I mean, he's got good staff.
But is that what he's really going for, or is it pandering to us in a very professional way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally know, but I would imagine that, like, he's not seeing he's seen the focus not where he thinks the focus needs to be, and so he's changing the focus himself. not thinking that he would be the presidential candidate necessarily, but just like the presidential candidates are not doing the job he wants done. So he's like, well, fine, then we'll do it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's exactly what he's doing. I could see him looking across the field, and the field was suffering from being as big and as divided as it was, and he's taking advantage of that and tossing his billions in.
Right, but it's not necessarily that he's taking advantage of that as much as he himself is hugely alarmed, and just wants to refocus people.
Yeah.
There are so many great reasons to be hugely alarmed. He is Jewish, and anti-Semitism is going nuts. There was just another article today, like 18 Jewish centers got threatened in New York. And also, I was talking to someone who said who works for him, and said that he started looking at data collection that the Republicans, that the Trump machine was doing, and it was very advanced, and the other side didn't have anything like that, and that was another huge cause for alarm. And so, I don't think his was so much he wants to be president as much as, holy crap, this is really bad, let me see what I can do.
Okay, so either he could be elected or he can just shape the rest of the campaign. And he has promised that if he's not the nominee, that
right.
he will put his money behind the nominee, no matter who it is.
Right.
So he's another one that I will vote for. If he becomes a nominee, I'll vote for, and I won't be holding my nose, because I think if he became president, it would be a good administration, good enough.
Yeah. It would be I think it would be a more reasonable, a definite, like, moving forward, more reasonable, talk across the aisle situation with him.
It'll be very interesting to see if there's any communication across the aisle left after Trump has left his wake of destruction.
Well, if he goes, it won't just be him that goes. Hopefully McConnell's out.
I'm sorry, say that again?
And that'll change everything. That would change everything. Really.
The what happens?
The Senate is
the Senate,
such an unbelievable mess.
Yeah, we have to take the Senate. That's the other thing that people don't seem to be focusing on, is that taking the White House is only half the equation. We have to take the Senate.
Right. The Senate is totally abdicating on their job of balance.
Yeah.
Just totally abdicating, completely abdicating. And I hope we go ahead with some more impeachment stuff based on what Trump's even done since the last impeachment.
So you want to try it again?
You didn't hear me?
Yeah, you want to try impeachment again?
Oh yeah, because part of what impeachment is doing is forcing all the people that don't pay attention to pay attention. Like, you can avoid a lot of information, except if it's on the front news every day for like a month or two, then some of it's at least going to trickle in.
Well, one would hope. From my point of view, where I pay attention a lot, I kind of wonder. I know there's a lot of people that they got their eyes and ears covered, and they want entertainment and they don't want news.
Right. They might have gotten, like, some people got weird, unexpected messages out of the impeachment hearings, but I don't know. I think it's hard to not recognize some of the terrible stuff that's going on. And you would also, like, I would also hope that, like, his going after Lieutenant Colonel Vindman and Vindman's brother, and, just like all the military people should be reevaluating their support of the Republican Party, period. You know? I mean, just unbelievable.
Well,
just really unbelievable.
I do not understand at all the appeal of Trump. It just, I can understand it if it was 20% of the people. I can't understand it at 40%.
Well, I mean, you know,
So,
if what you, it's whatever it is, it's not good.
so regarding the Senate, Erica Smith or Cal Cunningham?
I think that I'm annoyed that the Democratic Party, that the National Democratic Party got behind Cal Cunningham like last summer without seemingly giving Erica Smith a chance when Erica Smith is a smart, charismatic woman. I don't know if you knew they did that. They did that. They got behind him like last June.
Yeah, I think I heard that.
That boggles my mind. Okay.
What level of the National Party that the
Schumer?
Okay, that's
I think it was Schumer.
Pretty high up.
Let me see. Behind.
So I mean, I don't know the entire structure very well. I guess there's a Democratic senatorial campaign committee, something like that, at the federal or the national level.
Let's see. Yeah, well, I don't know. Whatever national organization he was with, they definitely made this choice last summer, and I don't think it was a fair choice. And then they're pressuring organizations to, in the primary, go for Cal Cunningham. So I really kind of resent that.
He would be okay. He would be okay.
Yeah, I think he'd be fine. I think he's good enough on women's issues, and I think he would have good appeal. Like he's more well known, and he was a senator. He was a state senator in the past. She's a state senator now. You know, so in that way, they have some similar history, some similar qualifications. Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, DSCC, is the one that made that decision last summer.
Okay. So there are female black senators. There's a couple, I guess.
There are a number of them.
None from the South. Can North Carolina...
Oh, you mean U.S. senators?
U.S. senators, yeah. Kamala Harris is the only one I can name off the top of my head who Joe Biden forgot about on stage in one of the debates.
Right.
Is there another one? There might be. Not sure. Not from the South. Can a Southern state, even a purple one like North Carolina, elect a black female senator?
Carol Moseley Brown. She's from Illinois.
I should know that because I'm from Illinois many years ago.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? But I don't think Senator Smith is in the position. Like, she's not well known enough around the state, and her campaign wasn't organized enough, I don't think, to reach around the state. So it's not that it can't happen. It just probably wouldn't happen this time.
All right. And what about those sneaky commercials for her by a Republican-linked super PAC?
Yeah, that was fascinating. I mean, she had nothing to do with that. That was them doing stuff. But wouldn't it be funny if their ads of her got her elected and then she surprised everyone by being fabulous?
Yeah. Got her nominated and then won the election.
Right.
Yeah.
Got her to do win the primary and
So I did
That
vote.
would be the thing.
I did vote for her because even though, other than the money that this Faith and Power, was it, PAC is
Right.
putting behind her, the millions of dollars they're spending, because she doesn't have the money or the campaign organization to do that. I wanted to have a good showing. I expect Cal Cunningham to win, probably by a pretty significant amount. I wanted her to have a good showing for the future, so I voted for her.
Well, good.
Strategic voting. Strategic. And once again, if Cal gets the nomination, as I expect, I have no problem voting for him in the general. District 2. Weird thing. Brand new district.
Yeah.
All Wake County. About the lower 3/4 of Wake County is a brand new congressional district. I mean, it's not a brand new congressional district because we're not getting a new one this election cycle. We'll probably have a new one in 10 years. But,
that was fascinating that Holding jumped right out.
Yeah.
When he had real competition.
No thanks, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked that he did that because really, you've had this position twice around and you're not even going to try a little bit to keep it?
Nope. Well, it's, I guess people are calling it safe. Now a safe Democratic district. We're going to pick up at least 2. So that makes the field wide open. And you've got 2 of the candidates for the primary.
Yeah, Monica Johnson Hostler and Deborah Ross jumped in when Holding jumped out.
Yeah. Let me take a step back to the Senate. The News and Observer has endorsed Cal Cunningham, and their endorsement seemed to me based primarily on electability. She said they'd both be good, but they think he's more electable, which gets back to can North Carolina elect a black female senator? That's not the only issue, but that's
right. I mean, I think the thing with North Carolina being able to elect a black senator also is if the minority vote would surge, you betcha. I mean, there are a lot of people that feel people of color who feel disenfranchised by the system, that if they would vote, they would make a huge impact.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll show up at the primary too. Okay. So Congressional District 2, you're, let's see, you don't have a pick. You have good things to say about both. Right.
Monica got in the race much earlier, and Deborah Ross kind of got in when it was looking easy. So I mean, they both have qualifications, and I think either way we would be good.
Okay, News and Observer. I know
both of them.
Yeah, News and Observer went with Deborah Ross.
Yeah.
And she
ran against Burr, and so she ran hard against Burr, I think, in 2010. So, she's definitely better known. Monica's the executive director of NC CASA, which is an organization against sexual assault, and so she's known in those circles around the state. But run for senator would make you better known. A well-funded run for senator, U.S. senator. So
I guess this might be one of those races that most people, even though Deborah Ross, I recognized her name, and it was like I heard it somewhere. But if you were to give me a quiz, where is this from, without any more background and research, I couldn't have pulled it out. I couldn't have even pulled it out as the Senate race. And most people are probably not as aware as I am. So this is
she's pretty well known. She was a state senator also, and she led the I think it was ACLU or Sierra Club. She was the executive director of ACLU.
Yeah, you're saying state director of ACLU, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say not a lot of people know who their state senator is, their current state senator. I'm distressing as that may sound. Does that sound distressing to you?
It is a little distressing. But yeah, you're probably right.
I'm afraid I am. Part of the time I've lived in North Carolina, that would be me. As you know,
Yeah.
I watch the news and I pay attention. And at one point I had to say, wait, what district am I in? Who are my representatives? Who's my senator and representative? And even as late as a month or so ago, I got surprised in looking over my ballot and said, wait a minute, where's David Price? Oh, wait a minute. I'm not in District 4 anymore. And I knew that districts were redrawn, but I didn't know that they got redrawn. Yeah, that it got all that changed. And the changes are huge.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was a terrible, ridiculous district going all the way around Raleigh, all the way around Wake County, like to get the rural areas to make it easier for a Republican. It was, the gerrymandering of the districts was really just appalling.
Yeah. Are you happy with the new maps? Happy-ish?
Yeah, I think was it this one that the process was still terrible. Like the judges kept giving the Republicans more chances, and they just kept ignoring the other side. The Democrats, and made stuff on their own in private anyway. Like I don't remember if it was this redistricting or the other one that. They had too many chances, and they got away with doing it badly anyway.
I think this is the one where a lot of people have said it's the most transparent that it's ever been. It still ended up with most of the districts, most of the U.S. House districts, still safe. Not very many competitive districts, but again, the Democrats will pick up 2 instead of being 10-3. It will be 7-5. My math is working out. 8-5.
Yeah, right. Like the result was the result, but the process was terrible.
Well, it was transparent, but we could see that it was a bad process. It wasn't a secret process. Yeah. It was a transparent process that we said, well, yeah, we still need to get to some kind of a nonpartisan district. And
I don't, and first it wasn't, I don't think it was transparent. I mean, unless the transparency is the Republicans are doing it by themselves.
There are certainly several maps that came out that way. This one, what I understand is that, you could watch it on TV. You could watch it on YouTube. So it was better. We still need to find some kind of a
better process.
Yeah, one of the the commissions that's independent and nonpartisan as you can get, which is not very. All right, so you'd be happy with either Monica or Deborah.
Yeah,
Deborah got the News and Observer's endorsement, but they also said either would be good. Which leaves people to go, okay, well then, how do you pick? Because we all don't have that background. We can't look in depth into their histories.
Right, but that's 2 out of, is it 5?
Yeah.
Well, that's narrowed down to 2 people out of 5.
One of whom lives in Jacksonville.
Right. And actually I think there's somebody out of Charlotte who's pretty well known in Charlotte, and so
there was
actually may give them a run from their money out of Charlotte, but I don't know. Got it. So it's narrowed down to 2. That's better. You can look at those 2 rather than
what I'm trying to do here for the audience is to help them feel better about themselves. As they say, I don't know who to vote for.
Right. Well, and there is a big problem of not down ballot voting not happening.
Yeah. So here's an office that ain't nobody know nothing about, Lieutenant Governor. There are probably a lot of people who don't even know that we separately elect the lieutenant governor. It's not a combined ticket with the governor.
Right.
So it's separate. For example, currently we have a Democratic governor and a Republican lieutenant governor. They didn't come from the same ticket.
Okay, so for Congressional District 2, there are 4 people. So the person I'm thinking about out of Charlotte, the Charlotte area, is running for a different position.
Okay.
Senate, Trevor Fuller. He's running for Senate, but he's not really on my radar. But he may get a lot of votes out of the Charlotte area.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's confused that we're only talking about the Democratic primary right now. We don't care about the Republican primary.
I did appreciate the Indy's suggestion of none in a lot of cases for the Republican primary.
Did the Indy actually have they actually published? Because the last time I looked, I couldn't find any recommendations.
They tried. They have like a lot of none.
Okay.
A lot of can endorse in this race.
Okay.
None of them.
So they're just like the rest of us. I don't know.
No. They were saying don't vote for the Republicans. They're all bad in this race.
Yeah. That comes as no surprise at all. So I guess I skipped a governor, just Roy Cooper. He's running again, so he doesn't.
Right. So go ahead.
I guess there's somebody running against him because he shows up on the ballot. But
right.
I guess that's just an ego.
Yeah, who knows? So basically for me, if you've got somebody in position who's doing a pretty good job, then it makes sense to leave them in position unless there's a problem. And Roy Cooper, I think, has done an excellent job of finding really well qualified staff and just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, and he can't get much else done.
I can't imagine changing him out. So
he can't get much else done with the legislature that we have now.
Right. In this environment, he's, done what he can do.
Yeah. If we give him a Virginia, if we give him a
right.
If we flip the North Carolina House and Senate, then we would make progress.
Then we would get more done.
Yeah. So back to Lieutenant Governor, Terry Van Dyne or Yvonne Lewis Holley and Chaz Beasley. You don't have a favorite in those 3? No, you do. You're going to go with Terry Van Dyne, but all 3 would be good.
Yeah, all three would be good. They're all in the legislature right now. I think Terry Van Dyne is the best known. Chaz Beasley did do a good job last year getting some loopholes with sexual assault and other problems, like major problems that we had in North Carolina law last year, which was great of him. So, they're all fine, but I think Terry Van Dyne's probably the best known and has it together the best.
Okay. So good recommendation. She would do a good job.
Yeah.
Okay. North Carolina auditor. Now there's an office that nobody's going to know nothing about. And yet, you know both of the candidates.
Yeah, I know both of the candidates. Beth Wood is the incumbent, and I'm not really, you would think that this ballot would have the eye for incumbent, for the person already doing the job. She's done the job for a long time, and she's fabulous. She does a great job. She tries to do a nonpartisan job and just does a great job. And so, I don't know why Luis is running against her.
Yeah, I
personally,
I became familiar with Luis Toledo because he was running for state senate against Wiley Nickel in the last election in 18, and Wiley won that. So, what is he trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, I know he wants to get into politics, but I don't think it's I don't know.
Keep trying, Luis.
I would vote for the incumbent who's already doing a great job.
All right. North Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture, you have a clear choice.
Yeah, Jenna Wadsworth has been doing some soil and conservation for years, and she's fabulous. She's really knowledgeable and
what the hell
does a great job.
does soil and conservation do?
Soil and conservation?
Yeah, soil and water conservation, I guess, right? I see that on the ballot all the time, and I have no idea what the people in that office do.
They provide programs and technical service for natural resource management and conservation on private lands with incentive-driven approaches. And she went in knowing a lot about the land and just is great. I think she's really excellent.
So we would see their effect on things like the watershed for Falls Lake and Lake Jordan, trying to manage growth around those areas and keep too much development out, things like that?
Pollution management.
Yeah.
Conservation easements. Yeah, probably.
Dumping crap into the rivers that we drink whatever the folks up in Rockingham County have dumped into the river, and then we dump our stuff in and send it to Wilmington.
Well, even there's dumping by Falls Lake too in Durham County.
Yeah,
I've read about that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to make the Durham County people mad too much, but yeah, it's you too.
Why not?
But us too.
Why not?
Sure, why not? So Jenna Wadsworth is your pick because she's been doing a good job.
Yeah.
North Carolina superintendent.
Well, she's not the incumbent in this position. This is a different position.
Oh, she's been in soil and water.
She'd be great.
Yeah, she's been in soil and water conservation and heading up to Commissioner of Agriculture. That was Steve Troxler, right? He's the incumbent there. It's the guy that runs the state fair.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was Troxler. I made a commercial for him one time.
Did you really?
I was the voice. I voiced a lot of commercials, a lot of political commercials a decade or so ago, and all Republicans, surprisingly, because the candidates and their consultants didn't know my political background, and I was working at a production house, and they needed a voice, and said, "Hey, how about you?" They had a hard time finding folks to voice Republican commercials. Most of the voice talent in the town is pretty serious Democrat. So,
Steve Troxler.
Yeah. So it was, for me, it was just, being a prostitute for voiceover. Pay me the money.
She grew up on a farm, her grandparents' farm, so she would be good for that too. Yeah. It says her grandparents' farm raised corn, soybeans, tobacco, cattle, cotton, hogs. So,
what I want to say about people at this level of the political system is that they have long, detailed lives, personal lives and political lives that we know so very little about, and yet they're going to work every day and doing stuff. And their election gets hung on the smallest of hooks. And, I don't know how to make a difference there.
You mean because people make decisions without necessarily...
Yeah.
I guess I forgot to mention, I also try to go to candidate forums, plural, to see the candidates myself whenever possible.
Well, you're super activist, but you're only going to see maybe if the candidate is lucky, 100 people there?
Yeah. 100 would be good.
100 would be good. 25.
But they should be going to, multiple events also, not just the one I go to.
Yeah.
One or two I go to with them. Hold on. Please. Dog.
Uh-oh.
What did she do?
Pet
Really?
issues.
She just knocked a picture down the stairs.
Of course. Tell her you're on a podcast and to behave.
Well, I think she just like laid down and pushed it with her paw by accident.
Oops.
I don't think she did it on purpose.
Okay.
She's a good girl.
So, yeah, I got the doors closed to the studio. If I didn't, I'd have a cat sitting in front of the camera right now. Superintendent of Public Instruction, Jen Mangrum, another strong endorsement.
Yes, I think she's amazing. They actually, Yvonne was involved in I think one of her organizations did a candidate forum with all of them, which I unfortunately didn't manage to make it to. But I think she's amazing. She ran against Phil Berger last year. No, 2 years ago. Which it's no small thing to run against Phil Berger in Rockingham County, because Rockingham County can be a dangerous place. So,
dangerous physically?
Yeah, dangerous physically.
Okay.
I've heard some things about Rockingham County.
All I know is what who's that guy that used to have a column in the News and Observer?
Which one?
Well, yeah, there's so many that used to have a column. The black guy. His name is totally escaping me right now, but I think he tells tales of growing up in Rockingham County.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. I know how well.
Yeah, I think I know who you mean. It'll come to me too.
Okay.
Okay, definitely not that guy. Definitely not AC Snow.
No. So Jen Mangrum is she's setting her sights, I don't know, a little lower at Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Well, I mean, she's a teacher and she's a professor.
Yeah,
so
qualified.
It seems like a good fit.
Who's this Mark Johnson that currently does as much damage as possible, you said?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Incumbent Republican, I take it?
Yes. And he's the guy that won from a woman who'd been doing it for I think decades, who was brilliant and had a PhD, and this isn't his field. Teaching isn't his field. Like maybe he taught for 2 years with a program, Mark Johnson, and he just clearly is against public education. And yeah, he's bad.
So he's the North Carolina version of the Secretary of Education, whose name I'm blanking on, in Trump's cabinet, who's doing everything she can to eliminate public education.
Oh, DeVos?
Yeah, Betsy DeVos. He's our North Carolina version of Betsy DeVos.
Yeah, I guess so. Although, I mean, Trump has chosen a lot of people to lead organizations that they're against.
Yeah.
That they're kind of fundamentally against. Yeah.
Yep.
He's a really young guy.
North Carolina Treasurer, Dimple Ajmera, if I'm pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if she pronounced her first name differently just to get away from Dimple.
No, I think it's Dimple because there's an advertisement she does that rhymes with dimple.
Okay. Well, it's cute, but we can get away from cute real fast. Because she's got some chops. Charlotte City Council member, CPA.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she'd be good. I've also, since then, I've also heard more good things about the other people that are running as well. Because I also, I continually talk to people about who they're voting for to get other ideas and other opinions. And so, I mean, I've heard that Matt Leatherman is good and Ronnie Chatterjee is good as well. But Dimple appeals to me.
We need clear, concise, black and white decision making here. Not going to get it, are we?
I mean, nope. I mean, like there is, I don't know.
You got to make a choice.
I mean, people have to make their own choices.
Yeah. I mean, if one thing that you can do is you can go to the League of Women Voters, vote411.org, and drill down. They've got candidate statements in depth, in some detail from every one of these people.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I've heard of that.
You're hearing from the candidates. It's sort of like going to a candidate forum, although the only people that get to ask questions were the League of Women Voters, and is basically done by questionnaire. So they're answering.
They do a great job.
Yeah, answering
League of Women Voters does a great job.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Right, and they do it every year, like every election.
But it's not analysis and it's not endorsement. It is information. So you can tell what the important things are. You have to get past the usual blah, blah, blah that any candidate is going to put in their statements, and get to the things that they're important to them and how well they can express them. And that might tell you which way to go.
That's true.
So,
yeah, I mean, going to candidate forums is great because you get to see people in real time.
Do people get to ask questions?
And you get to ask, people get to ask questions. But, at this point, they're probably mostly done, if not completely done. So being able to read them in their own words would be nice. Yeah.
Do those get recorded and placed on YouTube or anything consistently? Seems like that.
I don't know. I try to go to them in person.
Do you see a camera?
I've been to plenty of League of Women Voters candidate forums, and I try to go to them in person. Like maybe now they have people that are putting them online. I've been going to them forever, not just recently, and so I don't think at the time I was, I don't think that was an option so much before, but now it definitely is.
It's still not easy. It's still, getting the technology worked out is, it's some work.
Right. So the person that was the DPI before Mark Johnson was Dr. June Atkinson.
I remember that name for some reason.
Was pretty brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty shocking when he won.
Well, he was part of the Republican wave, I guess.
Right. But she'd been in office also 3 terms.
Okay.
So, I mean, not only was she in office, but she really knew what she was doing and cared about public education. Okay,
so Wake County only, Board of Commissioners, District 1. This is the way this is set up is a little weird because the districts are physical districts, but yet everybody in the county still gets to vote for them. So it's a little strange.
Sorry, what? Say that again?
For the board, Wake County Board of Commissioners, the districts are carved out on the map, and someone who is a commissioner for a district is the commissioner for that specific geographic area of Wake County, but everybody in the county gets to vote for them. So that doesn't make a lot of sense.
I believe that has changed. That it didn't used to be that way.
Well, I mean, my ballot still had commissioners for District 1 and District 3, and I don't know what district I'm in. In any case, District 1 is Jeremiah Pierce and Sig Hutchinson. Sig is the incumbent. And
no, he's not. Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Yes, he is. Sorry.
You were leaning Jeremiah Pierce.
Yes, because I'm really upset about the RDU Corey situation, and he voted for it.
That led me to go do a bunch of research, and I really would love to do a show with the Save the RDU Forest folks and the bike folks and all those. That'd be a great show to do.
They've been going to the Raleigh City Council meetings to plead their case. So, I mean, you can catch them there.
Yeah. they wouldn't be too hard to get. It's just doing the cancer thing and all that has slowed me way down. So
Yes.
I want to ramp things up once I'm healthy again. But I did some research, and so SIG voted for there to be a quarry. The quarry is half of the property that's in dispute, and the other half is where they got all the bike trails now. And he is in favor of Lake County leasing the land from the airport and making that half of the tract a recreation area. And that seems like a fair compromise to me. I don't think we're going to ever not have the quarry. They're going to dig another quarry.
Why are they putting a quarry there?
Because they want to dig minerals out of the earth and sell them.
Yeah, but that land is supposed to be airport land for expansion. Why are they selling it?
Well, they're not selling it; they're leasing it. They can't sell it.
Well, that's worse. Why are they screwing up the land that they're going to be stuck with a big pit of public land for the public good for the airports? I mean, really,
I can't defend.
They
I can't defend that.
Be doing that in the first place.
Yeah, I can't defend that. It's right next to an existing big pit, and
right.
In theory, in 25 years, which actually goes by pretty fast, they close that as a quarry and they make a park around it. They don't. What I read in the article was that they weren't planning on filling it in. They were going to make scenic overlooks of the pit. Right.
There should be no quarry on that land, in my opinion.
But the other half of the property, which is just as big, about 50% of it, the stuff that's closer to the airport itself, would be immediately leased and turned into recreation. So it's a 50-50
It's already being used.
Oh, yeah, it's being used.
So, so they're taking away framing this, right? They're taking away land for a pit, and they want to put up a big fence, and, they're not doing us any favors with this pit.
So in any case, Sig Hutchinson is a deal maker, I guess. He's trying to carve something down the middle, so to speak. And I don't know what Jeremiah Pierce would do. Is he all no quarry, all recreation? One of the stupidest things about it all is that in theory, the airport can't sell the land. I don't know why. Federal government the FAA prohibits the airport from selling the land. They're never going to use this for an airport. They're going to put in another big runway on the other side of the airport. They don't need this. But they can't sell it.
So he does oppose the quarry.
Okay.
He opposes it. Audra Killingsworth opposes it, and Maria Cervania opposes it.
Okay, and that's in District 3. Your pick was Maria Cervania, but you have no quarrel with Audra Killingsworth, and she was endorsed by the News and Observer. I think so was Sig Hutchinson. He got the News and Observer's endorsement.
Yeah, I think Audra or Maria would be fine.
Okay. These are areas that I think most people, when they get to that part of the ballot, they hold their heads and either skip it or just mark the first name, or however they decide to do it. Register of Deeds, Tammy Brunner.
Right. Yeah, I think Tammy, and then the guy running against Tammy, I think just today or just recently, he had like a temper tantrum at a at a polling site and an early voting site. Or just recently, he had a temper tantrum at an early voting site.
What did he do?
He had a fit because he was too close to the door or something, too close to the people, and he had a fit when they told him to move.
Wow, that's sacrosanct territory. You got a very sharp line. No politicking beyond this line.
Right.
Well, that doesn't speak well for him.
And she's shown herself to be a great professional over many years.
So that would be William Madden is the guy you're talking about.
Yeah.
He was registered of deeds in Orange County. So you're saying that was a good experience, but now he's showing his butt.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it for the list.
It sounds like it was a good experience, but he definitely had a, he cursed out a poll worker at the Cary voting site, causing a big ruckus, and I think the cops were called.
I missed that. That's where I voted. That the Herb something community center. Well, there's two. There's one over by Bond Park.
Yeah, this is Herb. Used to be CCC, Herb C. Young Community Center. Yeah, it happened on February 16th, I guess. But I just read about it in the newspaper today or yesterday. I was like, oh man.
You want to behave yourself if you want to get votes.
He was swearing too.
Damn, that would have been fun to see. I don't know if there were a lot of people were the day he was there. When I was there, a scattering of people outside the door on a short wait. 5 or 6 people lined up at the door. That was it. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, I went dancing last night, and somebody was talking about how few people there were voting early. And I know my friends I was talking to last night were like, we're waiting. We're waiting till we're more sure we have a better feel about presidential candidate.
Yeah, there might be something happening with South Carolina that would give you your last minute idea. We'll see. I didn't think too much was going to change, so I went ahead and locked my vote in.
Right. Well, that's good.
So there were 2 machines sucking in the ballots, and each one was at about 1,600 ballots. So that's
okay.
About 3,200 people had voted in not a precinct, because Cary's early voting is not done by precinct. You can actually vote anywhere in the county.
Right. Yeah, you can vote anywhere in Wake County for Wake County.
Yep. So if I can keep you a little longer, I don't know if you got to run, but I'd like to hear about this activism thing.
Okay.
Not very many people are. Most people stay home. If they encounter an activist, it's because traffic got blocked or they see it on TV.
Actually, and I should have said this in the beginning. These are my opinions. This has nothing to do with Now. Now didn't do any endorsements in the primary. NC Now PAC didn't do any endorsements in the primary. Every general election that has state-level candidates. So we didn't do it last year because it was municipal, and we don't do municipal.
And you don't do primaries, it sounds like.
Huh?
You don't do primaries.
A lot of times we don't because for various reasons. But especially with the primary being moved closer, and a lot of us have regular events in January and February that we've been doing for years, and there just isn't enough time because we don't send our questionnaires out. We interview people either in person or on the phone, and then take it and discuss it with the group, and so there's just not time to do that. Okay. With people around the state.
But we can look forward to endorsements for the general election for sure.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And that would be, and as the News and Observer said, you either use our endorsement to figure out who to vote for or who to vote against. They're happy either way. So what got you into activism? How long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been an active Now member since, I think I joined Now at the university when I was in college, and which was in Wisconsin. And when I moved here and I was working full time, I wanted to do more than just work, and so I started going to Now meetings, and that was probably late 80s. and just got more active. But also, like, feel like people have the power to make change. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm just letting you finish the thought.
Yeah.
Let me. I'll explain my experience with activism, and again, this is for the audience. For most people, well, who knows what the audience is going to be for this? Hopefully, I'll get you to promote it a little bit, and everybody who's going to tune into this is already an activist in some way. I've never been an activist. I went to an ERA rally when I lived for a very brief time in Knoxville in 1986, I think. No, it would have been 1989, just before I moved to North Carolina in 1990. And so I think it was an ERA rally. And I'd never done anything like that before. I was just curious. I just moved to the area, and I went, and I actually got myself on TV. So bad thing to do, because I'd no representative of what was going on. I think what I said was, all these protesters that are here, they just don't like the idea of people having sex. I think that's what I said. I think that's what I said. I was more of a jerk than I am now. That was it until a couple of years ago, and Trump was elected, and there was the inauguration, and the next day there was the Women's March, and it took another year, but then I actually went to the Women's March in 99. No, in 2000, no,
3 or 4.
Yeah, 18. The second one, and I just went to it. I kind of skated by. I looked and said, "Wow, this is impressive," and then I went home. And then I volunteered for the next
in DC.
one. No, here in Raleigh.
Oh, you mean the Women's March?
Women's March in Raleigh. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're talking about our Women's Marches.
Yeah. And then I volunteered for the next one, and then this one. So.
Yeah.
And then I've been to the Tuesdays with Tillis a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I went to an HK last year. I couldn't make it this year because, my cycle in the cancer treatment was, down a weekend. And that's pretty much it. And I call myself a sort of accidental activist, just not real activist-ish. Most people don't go at all. And then of the most people who go, they just show up and they don't do very much. They just, their body is there and they get counted. And maybe they make a sign. And then a few people are like you.
Well, I mean, there are a number of people that are very involved and very active. Maybe more of them are now members, and so maybe I know more of them. But certainly there are a lot of opportunities, and have been a lot of opportunities for protesting and making a difference, rallies and protests, and getting people to contact representatives on issues to make a difference. And they do make a difference. And so I had gone to a bunch of marches in D.C. over the years. And in fact, I thought you meant there was a March for Women's Lives in 2003 or 2004, and I organized 4 buses to that from the Raleigh area and the Durham area, and packed up my husband and my daughter, my daughter was like 5 at the time, 4 or 5 at the time, to go to these, amazing rallies downtown in D.C., downtown in D.C., in the center of D.C., with all these people coming from all over. And those are amazing experiences. And then here we have our own. And my friend Robin Davis was the first one to notice to go to the Moral Monday protests that were here that got great national attention, but are legislature was just too difficult and terrible and secure in bad districts to pay attention, whereas normally they should have paid a lot of attention to these great rallies on these important issues that affect all these North Carolinians. And we have like a lot of people in Fayetteville that are very active, and two of them, one of my favorite pictures, pictures, is these two older women with their fists up in the air as they're going to be arrested at the Moral Mondays, standing up for issues that they care about. So, a lot, I don't know. It's something I've always done, protests and rallies. And
did you feel comfortable when you first started? Was it like a little trepidation? What am I getting into? What is this really all about? Or was it?
No,
you felt right at home right away.
No, I never worried about it. My husband tells me I'm going to be shot someday, but
I don't mean worry about physical harm, although that can happen. It's not unknown. It's rare, but it's not unknown. I'm just
right.
Is this me? Do I belong here? Is it okay for me to come? I really actually felt that. Is it okay for me to be here?
Well, so you're at a women's rally,
right. But not all of them. The HKNJ was just everybody.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess I've picked most of the women's causes recently because that's a lot of what's happening, and
right.
And that was the first thing, seeing the response to Trump's inauguration the next day, I found so uplifting. So that's kind of where yes,
that was pretty crazy. That was pretty incredible. I know. So for that one, the Raleigh Now chapter talked about doing something. We had some event like in early December, and we're like, okay, so the decision, because the Now chapters kind of figure out what they want to do on their own, the decision was, well, we're going to have a rally no matter what. We don't feel like going to D.C. We want to have something here. We want people to be able to bring their kids to it. And so, like, independently, we decided to do this, and then found out there were more people that were working on this that already had gotten space for it, and we, instead of making our own thing, we joined them, and that just blew up. We didn't know. A lot of people showed up to work on it, and it wasn't clear, how many people were coming. Facebook is not a good indicator. Usually you can discount 1/3 of your people that say they're coming on Facebook. If they don't pay for something, they're likely not to come. And then if the weather's bad, even more won't come. And so, it was really not clear how many people were coming. And so we made these programs and agendas, and we're like, do we do 3,000 of these? Do we do 5,000 of these? And the numbers on Facebook kept blowing up. Thousands of people were jumping on every day, but still it wasn't clear how many of them are actually going to go to the first Raleigh Women's March. And it just got crazier and crazier. And then a lot of people that went didn't even register on Facebook. They were just like, I've got to do something. There's a women's march. Let's go. So I think we had over 20,000 people.
It was pretty amazing.
It was pretty amazing.
Well, actually, I didn't get to the first one. I got to the second one, and it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, the first one was unbelievable. And so we started at, what do you call it? City Plaza. And I was actually doing the chants and a speech and some chants there. And basically, we had tried to get the city of Raleigh to close the streets, and they they were kind of like, well, if you don't give us a ton of notice, we're not doing it.
And they want money,
and
too.
You have to try to stay on the sidewalks. And there were so many people at City Plaza. I mean, there were wall-to-wall people. The streets were automatically closed because there were wall-to-wall people, not just there, but for literally blocks. And so the plan was to, do a little bit of chanting and speeches and songs, and then go to the front of the line with the banner with any elected officials that were there. And basically the police were like, there are so many people, we don't know what to do. The march needs to start early. And so, the march started way early, and still, like Tara, she was one of the marshals and basically got there, was it an hour later? The back of the line got there like an hour later because there were so many people walking that distance, which wasn't really that far from City Plaza to Moore Square. The first one was at Moore Square. It was pretty unbelievable. And I saw a lot of people I knew, and a number of them hadn't bothered to even register on Facebook. They just showed up. And it was, wasn't just women. It was women and family, generations of people. Like, I know a friend of mine, her kids, she was there, her kids were there, her mom was there. And that wasn't uncommon, having like a couple generations marching together. That was pretty incredible.
So most of those thousands of people that come, they might come to one other rally in the year, but they won't be doing very much during the year. It's still really important that they do.
I think it depends. Like the first year, the Women's March group did a bunch of stuff. We did a bunch of stuff. We did like empty chair town halls, and they were the first N&O forum. They do those monthly forums.
Yeah.
I think their first forum was with some of the steering committee people from the Women's March. And they were the people, I mean, I'm active anyway, but the people in this were more active the first year, and maybe medium active the second year, but seems like less active, definitely less active the second year and after that, which is a shame. So it's good if you're going to come to one thing, it's more than zero things, but there's other ways you can make a difference, from your house and from your busy lives. And another one of our goals in the Raleigh Women's March, because all of them were independent, was to hook people up with organizations that do the work so that you could, to make it easier for people to get active, and so that we wouldn't be an organization, but that we would move people to already existing. Hold on. Hey there.
Yeah, all those groups had booths or tables along the perimeter of the Halifax Mall. And so
and that's why we do that. Like, we specifically were having organizations and not jewelry sales and not campaigns or anything like that. Ours are specifically nonprofit organizations to give them a chance to give people a chance to hook up with them.
So what would your recommendation for people who are not going to be in the leadership, but they do want to do something? Show up at some rallies.
Well, I mean, so before that, join organizations that are dealing with issues that you care about. So if you care about women's issues, there's a number of organizations that deal with women's issues. Now is definitely one of them. AAUW is another. And if you care about reproductive rights, there's some that focus specifically on reproductive rights, like NARAL and Planned Parenthood. And you can become active and knowledgeable by joining the organizations and just getting their emails and reading their emails and taking an occasional action. That is more helpful than, that's helpful. Just by joining, you're helping organizations because they're representing you as well as other people that joined. It's helpful when I go talk to somebody if I'm representing another 1,000 or 2,000 people. It is good to go to things. It's good to go to the legislature and make them face us and show them that we're not all happy with what they're doing and letting them just continue the way they are. There's so many different things that you can do, whatever works for you.
It is interesting to be up in the gallery.
Right.
And see it work. I don't know if they're looking up there to see scowling faces or happy faces. If you make much of a fuss, you applaud or cheer or do anything, they're going to shut you down pretty fast.
Right, but one of the, you can bring signs that are small. Certainly in one or the other, the House or the Senate, you can wear your sign, like the shame sign where it's SHAME and each different person has a letter, is a lovely visible sign.
Sitting in the right order.
I've seen that in the gallery before, and that's super powerful. Yeah. You can make your statements without words. And you can stand at the window holding your real sign. Yep. And glaring.
The effect of this is I would say it's all incremental. No one action has a huge effect. The accumulation of action over the course of a year starts to have an effect, and the result can be something like the 2018 blue wave of election that we had in North Carolina. Right? We didn't change the party of either house. We took away the Republicans' veto-proof majority as the first step, and now we have it not just in the U.S. House, but also, in the North Carolina House and Senate, redrawn districts that are going to be somewhat more fair. I don't know if it's going to allow us to turn the total legislature blue, flip NC as they call it, but maybe we'll see.
Yeah, and not that one political party or the other's perfect either.
The Democrats have a lot to account for, especially in history. But
yeah,
they're doing, without getting into another major tangle of weeds, that I do these days run into a lot of people that have a pretty serious beef with the North Carolina Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So that's happening nationally. It's also happening locally. You just don't hear very much about it. So another grist for another program.
Discussion.
Yeah. A quick update on the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment. Virginia passed it. It was the last state that needed to ratify. So does that mean it's in effect? We have an ERA?
Not yet. Okay, so a couple of things. There have been two strategies to pass the ERA since it didn't. By 1982, we needed to have 3/4 of the states, or 38 out of 50 states, ratify the ERA, and we only had 35. And at first, people thought we needed to start over. But then in 1992, a 203-year-old constitutional amendment passed. The 27th Amendment passed in 1992 after sitting around for 203 years. And so people were thinking, well, if they can do it, then the Equal Rights Amendment should be able to pass with just 3 more states. And so in Congress, since about then, bills to pass the ERA both ways have been filed every year, or every other year, I don't know. But since then, every year they could be. a start over strategy and a 3-state strategy. And let's see. So there, we did billboards this year that or last year that illustrate, like, there are 4.2 million women that live in North Carolina and 0 have equal rights. And if you consider girls, there are 5.2 million women and girls who live in North Carolina and 0 have equal rights. And so there are all these areas of unfairness, like equal pay, like sexual assault and domestic violence, and really important things. And then you're asking about when does it go into effect? So the actual Equal Rights Amendment was originally proposed in 1923, and a later version has these 3 sections to it. And the first section is just the main meat of it. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. And Section 2 is Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. So once this passes, Congress needs to fill in what it means with laws. And Section 3 says the amendment shall take effect 2 years after the date of ratification. So basically, the ERA, once passed, would take 2 years, would go into effect after 2 years.
And now, does that mean we're in that 2-year waiting period, or is there still something going on?
Well, I think in that 2-year waiting period, like, laws would be passed to flesh out what the Equal Rights Amendment specifically would mean. Okay,
and the 2-year waiting period begins at the point Virginia ratified.
Right, that's when the 2-year waiting period begins.
Is there still a real fight over this?
There is, actually. The first fight is over. So there was a deadline. Congress had originally set a ratification deadline of 1979, March 22nd, 1979, for the state legislatures to ratify it. And it needed, like I said, 38 states. And in 1979, there were only 35 states. And so they extended it to 1982, but didn't get 5 more states in those 5 years. And so, but it's not part of Section 1, 2, or 3. It's just like a random date that Congress came up with. And so the argument also, because the 203-year-old constitutional amendment went into effect, is that the date isn't binding. And anyway, so it's in the courts right now. I mean, Congress has introduced a bill that passed the House to remove the deadline. And after it passes, it passed the House 232 to 183, largely along party lines, but there were 5 Republicans supporting the measure and 0 Democrats opposing it. And then, the next step would be going to the Senate, which with this Senate is a harder sell because this Senate basically doesn't seem to be doing its job at all. But after an election, it might be a better Senate.
Yeah. More incentive to
vote.
Yeah, to vote and not just consider the presidential election, but the senatorial election. In North Carolina, real good chance of flipping one of our Senate seats from red to blue.
Yes.
And people just don't think about that enough.
So not only you can vote, you could also help candidates.
Yeah.
You can also help with candidates and get out the vote, and there's other ways people can help.
So I think there were also several states that rescinded their ratification. And
there were a couple states that rescinded their ratification. Kentucky, Nebraska, Tennessee, South Dakota, and Idaho. And when we were discussing this, they were just basically saying that those didn't count, but it needs to be worked out. It needs to be worked out. So because it looks like they rescinded before the 1982 deadline. So, but maybe there will be 5 other states to replace them.
That would be nice. The Constitution is remarkably ambiguous about the amendment section. None of this stuff gets spelled out, whether you can rescind your ratification, whether you can put in a deadline. Deadlines have occurred with other amendments as well, but has never been challenged in the court. So it's ambiguous.
Right. So it's uncharted territory.
Yeah. It's amazing that
But there have been many experts that have said they think that the deadline isn't solid.
Yeah. It's amazing that we've gotten this far in the country and still have so much uncharted territory to trot.
Well, I mean, and really, it's also amazing that so many people just assume that women have equal rights under the law, as they should. And there are other amendments that it seems like should have provided, like the 14th Amendment, but just weren't interpreted to apply to women. And because of precedent, they're continually not recognized to apply to women, which is a shame because it looks like they were written to also apply to women. But it's ever interesting. And then, there's interesting things in North Carolina. Not that many people know that with the 19th Amendment and the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment being ratified is this year, NC, North Carolina, pretty much blew the vote on the 19th Amendment. They had the opportunity to pass it in 1920 and didn't. And in fact, North Carolina didn't ratify the 19th Amendment till 1971, much to our shame.
19th Amendment was the one that gave women the
right to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, wouldn't it be nice for North Carolina to fix this by ratifying ERA?
1971, we finally ratified the 19th Amendment.
Yeah, finally.
It wasn't needed at that point, but it was kind of nice to get it finally done.
Yeah, and it just barely made it.
Yep. Well,
in 1971, it's still just barely passed.
A thorough discussion of the ERA, of course, it's been had by many programs and pundits, but most people still don't really understand what it would do or how vague it is as to what it would do or not. Sort of depends on how you're looking at it. That is grist for another show. We don't have time to do it on this one, but it'll be a fun discussion because it lays out no discrimination on the basis of sex.
Right.
And then what? We're going to end up in court forever.
Well, and that's what I think that the Section 2 with Congress making the laws further defining what it would do.
Yeah.
That's where that comes in.
That would help.
Well, if done correctly, that would help. Yeah.
All right. So, well, thank you very much for your suggestions, we'll call them, for candidates for this election. And,
yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, and keep up your activism. You got an unlimited amount of energy, it would appear.
Thanks.
And we'll see what happens with the ERA. So let us wrap this one up. This has been, no, that's me. This has been episode. I can't keep my machinery working right here. You can't see this because you're on the phone. I'm just screwing up the titles like crazy. This has been episode 77. It's our civics lesson on the Triangle Talk Show. It's our third civics lesson in a row. February 24th, 2020, decided voter. And you very much helped me become a decided voter, even though you're still a little undecided yourself.
just in one thing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Gailya. Thank you for sticking around for this episode, and that will be it for this show. I get to say who I am finally. I am Gary Pierce, and I voted, and I am a decided voter. And goodbye, everybody. You can say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Over and out.
Thanks.